Good day to you. So, how have social media, which is a plural term, how have social media affected our human relationships? How have social media affected the way that we interact with others? And specifically, this dimension of our relationships that we call friendship, the idea of friendship. That's what this chapter 1, is all about, and it's the basis of our instructor video for today. This chapter really serves as an overview for the book. It gets into the relative themes that are going to be covered by the rest of the chapters in the book, and it's very research-based, this book. It cites lots of studies as you go along. You'll see the authors of those studies cited in parentheses as the book seeks to make its points. So in this instructor video today, I want to highlight some of the central themes that are talked about in trying to address this question of how have social media affected our human relationships. And before we get to that chapter, let me just mention in today's USA Today, there's an interesting article that's published a series of studies done by Yale researchers and University of California at San Diego researchers, published in the Harvard Business Review. I think it was a Harvard Business Review. Yeah, the Harvard Business Review. And it's saying that our mental health, and specifically whether we gravitate towards depression, is affected by the way that we use social media. Specifically, the studies show that people who tend to log on to social media and just look at other people's feeds, again, feed is being used generically here to talk about Snapchats and also Instagram photos and also tweets, but to watch other people's content, if you're just a passive observer, there tends to be a decline in mental health, and that is that depression is more likely to occur. In essence, you are seeing other people's lives as projected by them as being very positive, and in comparison, your life tends to pale in comparison. On the other hand, these studies show that if you are an interactive user of social media, that you not only just post stuff yourself, but also you comment on others, you question others, and you receive comments on your own material, then you tend to gravitate towards moving away from depression and having a better mental health. So today, we're studying social media to figure out how it impacts our social relationships. And to begin with some chapter concepts, the whole realm of social media and the way that we communicate inside of social media is changing fundamentally our ideas about three concepts having to do with human relationships. One concept is intimacy, and that is the concept of how close we feel to others and what we let others in on in terms of what would previously be considered private information. One of you in your videos introducing yourself talked about how one of your dislikes of social media is that people put their entire lives on Facebook. And this is a new dimension of intimacy, that we are letting people know things about us that we previously would reserve only for face-to-face discussions. So we tell each other about when we tell other people on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and Snapchat, we tell people when we're sick, for example, even posting photos of us if we're in the hospital. Some people tell others about divorces that they're going through. Still others talk about their pets and going to the vet. There's a friend, so-called friend of mine on Facebook, who's posting a daily update on her cat who's having problems going to the bathroom. Now, to some people, that would be considered a kind of a coarse subject, talking about a cat defecating. But this particular person has felt emboldened by Facebook to open up about that experience and talk about it. It would previously be considered to be an intimate subject that's only reserved between two people who know each other. A second concept that's being altered is the very definition of friendship itself. In the old days, prior to social media, a friend was something that had to be cultivated over a long period of time. It couldn't be instantaneous, like sending a message to someone and asking them if they will accept your friend request. It couldn't just be on the basis of seeing somebody's posts online and deciding that you like their politics, so you want to friend them, or that they have a status in a company that you would like to take advantage of in case it presents an employment prospect to you. No, a friendship was something that had to be cultivated over time. You had to get to know a person. You had to see them in person, and at different points along that relationship, there would be certain challenges that would cement the friendship. Challenges like, do they support you through times when you are not at your best, when you're in a bad mood, or you're going through something that makes you very sad? That would help define a friendship. Also, defining a friendship would be as if you at some point have an argument that you're able to resolve to the mutual satisfaction of both of you, and now your friendship is stronger. That's the old model of friendship. The new model of friendship today is simply connecting with somebody and inviting them into your social media feed. And finally, the third concept that is being fundamentally altered by social media today is your self-identity. That is what you think of as as the kind of person that you are presenting to people on an everyday basis. And a lot of this results from our profile pictures. Just think about how careful you are about how you present yourself on social media. Many of you will do several takes of a photograph before you put it on Instagram, and that becomes part of your profile, or Twitter or Facebook. And some of you will doctor your photographs. You will take that photograph and then you will airbrush it, or you will crop it, or you will put it through a filter, as you can do on Snapchat. Just think about how that is giving you a kind of control over your self-identity that you don't have in public. I mean, if you wake up late for a class and you're going to make it to that class and you're going to give up taking a shower, you throw on a hat, maybe, you throw on a sweatshirt, and you make it to class, and throughout the whole class, you're presenting yourself to others in a way that is undoctored, except for the fact that you put clothes on in that hurried moment. But you're not able to shape your look. You're not able to hide parts of you out of the frame that you don't consider to be the best parts of your body. You have less control over your identity than you do on social media. So those are three concepts that will be played out throughout this course: intimacy, friendship, and identity. One of the questions as this chapter proceeds is, do social media increase or decrease our bonds between people? That's for you to decide. When you have interactions with people on your social media, are you getting closer to them? Are you staying the same distance from them? Or are you moving further apart? Do you see things that people post and you are deciding that, you like them less than you did before because you're finding out things about their politics, about their religion, about their tastes in sports, about their self-centeredness that you don't like? And is that only because you're seeing into their intimacies on social media, whereas if you were to see them in person, you would like them better? Or is it the opposite? Are you coming to get to know somebody better and feel a tighter bond with them because you're able to have exchanges with them that may be more honest and direct than you would have in real life, because maybe you have less confidence in real life than you do when you're posting something on Facebook. So when you're posting on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, you feel that you're better able to open up and articulate yourself. That's a question for you to answer, and a question that I hope you continue to ask, actually, that has no definitive answer. Do social media increase or decrease our bonds with others? One of the other concepts discussed in this chapter is that because of social media today, people have less discretion and some even have less shame. Less discretion in terms of what they divulge to others. It really gets at the idea of humility, that there is a part of the human condition that has existed in the past where we felt that, to be a braggart, to be somebody who draws attention to themselves constantly, to be a person who focuses very much of what they're putting on social media repeatedly throughout the day on themselves is an exercise in narcissism. It's an exercise in getting others to try and pay attention to you. And this is made possible very easily by social media because of the photos in particular that you can post, but also the comments that you're posting. And some people, particularly those from religious communities, as cited in this chapter, believe that this is a loss of dignity in society, that there is no shame anymore. I have a friend who will very honestly post her views on guys. She has been through 2 divorces, and she'll say guys are shit. She'll say that and on her Facebook, and that's also saying something about her. It's saying something about her having a very hostile attitude towards men and seeing men in extremely derogatory terms. That is a lack of humility, and it's a lack of feeling shame. When you feel shame, you're embarrassed over having done something, but social media free you up from having done that, especially if others join in and like your comment, in this case, the derogatory comments. Next up in our discussion here is the idea of, are posters now, people who go on social media, are they subjected to new social pressures and also new constraints? And what I mean by this is there are a lot of rules about social media which are unspoken. If you have a friend and they say that they're sick, and you don't decide to go on and say, "Oh, I hope you get better soon," or make some chicken noodle soup, or put on Netflix and watch episodes of blah blah blah. If you don't chime in with some kind of comment, you're kind of ostracized by that friend in many cases. They may even go online and make a comment like, "Well, I know who my real friends are." So there's a kind of pressure to respond on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and Snapchat that does not exist in real life necessarily. The social pressures of liking and sharing are great when you're connected in those social media friendships. Another dimension discussed in this chapter is, unlike matrimony, which is marriage, unlike matrimony, friendship for the first time because of social media is being vaulted into the public sphere. That means it is being publicly detailed. That is, talking about your friendship to other people who are your followers. A friendship used to be something that's kind of private. My buddy's Kevin. He's my good friend of mine. We went to undergraduate school together. He went to Penn State. I followed him there. He's a really good friend of mine. I mean, people who are around us, they would know that we're good friends, but other people, they may not know that Kevin and I, for example, backpacked Europe. Friendship was a much more private affair. Today, your public friendships are on display through comments. You are displaying to the rest of the world that you have a friendship with this person, and you're saying that it's a deep friendship. Also, the idea of friendship and decoupling that friendship has become more heightened on social media as well. When you defriend a person or unfollow a person, it can become an offense. In life prior to social media, if you wanted to not hang out with a person so much anymore, you feel like you're growing apart, your tastes are different, they're into drugs, maybe you're not, they're into drinking, maybe you're not, they're into multiple relationships, you're maybe into just one, you would just kind of slowly avoid them and go away. Now there's a formal act of defriending that person. I defriended a person in part because their politics were really getting to me. They were really, really angry politics, and I just didn't want to see it anymore. I tried to block it, didn't work, so I unfriended him. Their response was to email me with a lot of vitriol. They said, "I pay your salary as a public employee and you defriend me?" Whoa. That's a kind of elevation of antagonism and defriending of a person that has not existed prior to social media. Now, in terms of people who use social media, the book makes the claim, and I'm not sure that it's still the case, that in general, women use social media more than men, and particularly Facebook. And also, when you look at ethnicities, white people on social media tend to have more homogenous friendships, more homogenous networks of people that are like them, in at least on the dimensions of ethnicity and race. They have more likeness with the people they're on than people who are minorities, people who are multiracial, people who are non-whites. They tend to have more diverse sets of friends. You can answer that question for yourself based on your background. One of the central themes of this chapter, which I found interesting, is that although we strive to have as many friends and followers as possible on our social media, in actual fact, our interaction is with a relatively small handful of people. I have a colleague. She has hundreds of friends on Facebook, and she posted photos of her in graduation. And I looked at the comments by people so far. Now, graduation is only a few days old. It happened this past Saturday. But the comments are from a handful of people. There's really only about 5 or 6 people that have responded. And those people have responded to each other's comments as well. And so it says that even though on paper we have a vast network of so-called friends who are following us and who have befriended us, in actual fact our interaction is with a relatively few people. Also raised in this chapter is the idea that intimacy, to return to that concept, now for the first time is asynchronous. Asynchronous means you send a message and the person receives it in a different time. It's not real time that they receive it. You send it today, they read it tomorrow. They respond tomorrow, You don't get it until the next day, and then you respond the next day. That's 3 days. That's asynchronous communication. Intimacy used to be something where you see a person, you're glad to see them, you give them a hug. You don't give everybody a hug, but you give that person a hug because you're intimate with them. And it occurs in real time. It happens when you see them. Now is the time. I'm not going to call them up and say, hey, can I come over and give you a hug? That's not the way the intimacy used to work. But on social media, that kind of intimacy is taking place with likes and heart symbols and all the other ways that you can respond to people's comments. Now, one of the major claims of this chapter, and I'm not sure I agree with this, as one of the students posted in their introduction videos, she said that social media are versatile, that they are always changing, and this may be one of the areas where social media is changed. The book makes the claim that social media are used primarily to deepen our offline relationships, That means we meet others offline or connect with them briefly at a party or through a friend or in our house or in our apartment, and then we go to social media to try and deepen those friendships. I'm not sure if that's the case. I think that so many more relationships are actually initiated on social media today, and then they are deepened, or at least that's the attempt, but that's for you to decide. Then there's also another concept that taking on intimacy breaks it down even further, and it talks about how social media has differentiated between casual and intimate contacts. If you have an intimate contact, it's a contact with a person where you have a lot of shared experiences and you have a connection with them that should not be severed. So even if you see things that you don't like that they're posting and you've decided that you don't like what they're posting, you're still not going to defriend them because you have an intimate relationship with them. Whereas a casual relationship is something much less. I have a casual relationship with a guy that I met because he plays in a band that's a band that does Rolling Stones. It's a Rolling Stones tribute band. The Rolling Stones are my favorite band. And I met him at a concert briefly. I've never really had a conversation one-on-one with him. I saw him in the lobby of the hotel at the concert that he was playing at, and I met him briefly, but he was surrounded by people. And now we exchange lots of messages online. And he has a set of politics that I really disagree with. And I'm reaching the point where I may say, I don't know if I want to see these politics anymore, because he doesn't just have disagreements. He gets into kind of a meanness or hostility that I don't really care for. And I'm sort of ready to say, I don't really want to see this anymore. He's a casual relationship. There's a difference between intimate and casual relationships. And moving towards the end of our instructor video now, one of the concepts that is taken up also in the chapter is that these vast online networks that we belong to, the social media that we belong to, they reduce the investment that is needed to make friends. Friendship takes a lot of investment. It takes time. It takes care. It takes exchanging things with the other person, exchanging resources, letting people borrow things, letting people take up some of your time and emotional capital as you empathize with what they're going through, celebrating others' achievements and showing that celebration through our empathies and other ways of expressing to them through messages of support and congratulations. Online networks have reduced that. That took a lot of time and energy in person, but today it's a simple click of a like button. It's a simple sending of an emoji or a thumbs up. And the investment that's required for friendship is very, very little. So that's going to wrap up our second instructor video on Chapter 1 for the book. I hope you have a great day.